And we're back. So in this video I'm gonna be covering the 7th mission of the Halo Combat Evolved campaign, the library. I hope you got your reading glasses already. Yeah, this mission has quite a lot of infamy to it. As well, a lot of people find this really hard. A lot more people find this to be really repetitive, and I don't know. It's the mission that everyone just wants to skip ahead because they just don't want to deal with it for whatever reason. Now, my standpoint or my approach to this mission is going to be a little bit different than other missions that we've done previously. Since we're not going to be fighting any Covenant in this mission, the tactics are going to be vastly different from what we have experienced previously. Positioning and the kind of cover that you use are gonna be well, very different. Also, as the general playstyle that you choose, although you can still be quite flexible even on Legendary. I'm gonna show you one playstyle that works for me, and that is the playstyle that resolves around holding your ground, right? Whenever you get into some kind of encounter with enemies, you just fight it out. You hold your ground, you hold your piece of cover, and you do whatever it takes to take as little damage as possible. So, in one way, that can be considered, the easiest way of doing things, but it's also the method where you're gonna be fighting the most amount of enemies out of all the methods. While you can also, play more risky and skip ahead of a lot of the encounters, and which I do a couple of times in this, of course, just to keep things brief. Not intentionally, but when you die multiple times on certain encounters, as a video creator, you just kind of want to keep the flow, and get things going. So yeah, hopefully this video is gonna make you feel encouraged to try out your own specific playstyle and your own method to try and beat this mission. This is not a perfect run per se. You might remember me telling you that I estimated this mission to be around 45 to 50 minutes. Yeah, it turns out that was quite the overestimation of my abilities and my skill in this game. And as you can see, this took me way over an hour, almost an hour and 15 minutes to complete. So there's that, but it also shows you that you can, take your time, just kind of relax and take out on the encounters patiently, and learn whenever you do get overwhelmed or stabbed in the back, because something that this mission does a lot to you is spawn enemies behind you and spawn enemies in order to try to surprise you. So I'm gonna try to show you how to counteract that, but let's just get started with the missions, and I can give you more specific tips whenever they come to surface. Let's do this. So as usual, we are gonna be playing this on Legendary difficulty with no skulls on. Nothing special there really. This recording was done quite late in the day, in the evening, almost close to midnight. And well, I wasn't in particular tired doing this, but I just felt bored, so there's that.
We must collect the index before we can activate the installation.
So, starting off this mission, you immediately gonna realize that the level design is quite open. There's gonna be flood, quite a lot of it, and there's this weird sci-fi gizmo in the center called the activation index that you need in order to finish the level, and that is pretty much your main objective. So, starting off, you're gonna have these new enemies called the flood carrier forms, and they are kind of these big, like, bubble guys that try to sneak up on you, and then they explode. They kind of do a little bit less damage than a frag grenade. They don't take out your shields completely, but they do a significant amount of damage. And as you move up, you're gonna have combat forms dropping down these tubes. And what I like doing is I like not having the carrier forms blow up around the combat forms, because I want the shotgun. The assault rifle is absolutely garbage against the flood, and it actually has a specific damage decreaser. I think it's about 75% of total damage against all flood forms, so it's pretty bad. You can see me using the plasma weapons once again to clear out all the infection forms that the carrier forms release when they die. They release about 7 or 8 of them each time. So you might remember me, you know, telling you guys to hold your position as one of the main strategies, and I screwed that up completely, and I am way too aggressive, and I'm gonna show you a really great example on how you can die in just a moment, because I actually die just a couple minutes into this because I got too overzealous. I don't know. I think I was a little bit intimidated going into this mission, and I thought I was a lot stronger than I actually was. But you can see how fast they can take you down as you get overwhelmed, and how fast you die. So, especially when the flood has shotguns themselves, they can be a menace up close. So don't do that. Just, I think a better way of handling that in particular would be probably just to chuck in the frag and then go back the way you came and take cover behind one of the beams lining the wall. I'm just gonna call those things the beam for the rest of the mission or something like that. That's kind of what it is. Just a massive supporting beam. So you're supposed to follow the monitor, which is the big blue bulby looking robot guy. He's gonna be kinda like your guide to make you not get too sidetracked as you play through this. And as for the pistol, it's a great weapon against combat forms and carrier forms. Towards all flood forms, it actually has a 1.2 times damage multiplier against flood forms, and it only takes 2 pistol bullets to blow up a carrier form. So I really recommend using the pistol as your secondary weapon throughout this mission. However, you can feel free to, you know, just switch to any of the plasma weapons to clear out infection forms, and also if you are in a pickle getting rushed by the combat forms, you can also use that. Of course, it's not that bad. And I also believe that it also retains the stunning effect that it has against other unshielded foes as well, so it's not bad. But the pistol and the shotgun is probably your best choices for weapons here. So early on, ammo is actually gonna be quite scarce. As you can see, I'm almost out of shotgun and pistol ammo here simultaneously, and I'm constantly looking around the corpses of the combat forms in order to find more. So I do a bit of scavenging here because and do find actually some. But your success with that will vary, and that's when it's a really good thing to be accustomed to using the plasma weapons as well as kind of like a replacer until you find more. Don't touch the needler though. The needler doesn't do anything. Basically, what the needler does is kind of similar to sticking a combat form running towards you with a plasma grenade. He's gonna carry the explosion to you and blow you up. And in this game, or in this mission in particular, when you're fighting a large group of combat forms holding a position, having an explosion go off around a big pile of corpses is generally a bad idea, because they will drop grenades and it will cause a chain reaction which is gonna take you out. It actually happened once to me this mission. I'll show you that later. So it's just something to look out for and make sure you use proper spacing, you know, as you're holding a piece of cover. And I also kinda maintain the same philosophy around having the enemies approach me instead of the enemies approaching, or instead of me approaching the enemies. Especially when it comes to, you know, the flood, because like I said, they will rush you and you're gonna end up swamped. So as you progress through this mission, watch your motion tracker, notice when the enemies do spawn, adjust to depending on the, you know, where the enemies do spawn, and take up a proper position accordingly. So here I just shoot the combat form that's jumping down, and I throw a grenade. It didn't really connect with anything, but usually there's more combat forms that follows that jumping guy. And here I almost got myself swarmed, but with some quick thinking and a frag grenade I was actually able to take out a big group like that. So it's just a great example on how you can use the grenades as tools to overcome a great obstacle like that when the flood do bunch up, because they don't really use common tactics to, you know, try to outmaneuver or outsmart you. They are just zombies, right? And so they solely rely on numbers and rush tactics to try and kill you. So here I'm just running around looking for more shotgun and pistol ammo. I'm actually doing okay. I have about 35 shots right now for the shotgun, so, and a decent amount of ammo for the pistol as well. So the best idea is probably just to move ahead, because you're gonna have more enemies with more useful weapons spawn for you. So hopefully the ammo for you should be, you know, sustainable. Kind of the same thing applies to here. Just try not to have any of the carrier forms blow up around any of the combat forms with good weapons like pistols and shotguns, and you should be able to refill your ammo just fine. And here, something that I'm doing, since there's so many of them, I'm actually holding my position up against one of these beams. They cover, but I instantly move away once one of the carrier forms blow up. And that causes a big chain reaction that blows up all of the other ones as well. And now we are being followed by a massive amount of detection forms. But yeah, I'm kind of testing the waters here a little bit. I'm trying to see if there's gonna be another wave of flood that's gonna jump down the tube, but there isn't. So I go back for a plasma weapon to deal with the infection forms. I think, at least. Maybe I'm just gonna ignore them. I don't know. Like with the flood in particular, my experience is that a lot of times it's kind of like an ebb and flow thing, you know. And more so than with the Covenant, you are, as a player, have the control over the pace and, you know, the flow of the fight, how much you allow yourself to take on at once. And that's why I feel like the Flood is so good, because they are, you know, zombies, and on their own they're not that strong, really. Like, they're pretty easy to take out.
The security doors have sealed automatically. I will go access the override to open them.
One by one. But when they actually do bunch up, then they become a problem. But you can do as much damage to a single combat form with a frag grenade as you can do with the entire group.
This portal is the first of 10.
So
Puzzling. You brought such ineffective weapons to combat the Flood, despite the containment protocols.
we have the monitor just being sassy and commenting on my choice of weapons. And I'm just curious. I'm checking if there's any, you know, health packs or overshields or any other goodies back here, but it turns out there was not. There was just a bunch of infection forms. It's kind of like Bungie telling you, "Hey jackass, you're going the wrong way." And now watch the motion tracker and watch what's behind me right now. Yeah, those are all carrier forms, and I do notice this somewhat. Or, well, not carrier forms in this case, but it could have been. You know, it's just something that tends to happen, you know, when you see a whole bunch of red dots behind you on the motion tracker. The best assumption is to make that Bungie is trying to blow you up. So just keep that in mind, even though that didn't really happen, no, this time around.
The Flood must not escape the installation. They consume.
So here I almost get killed because I have one wave of flood spawning behind me and one in front of me at once. So I immediately retreat and take up a position behind this beam. Turns out it was just those two waves, so far at least. So it's easy once I get to cover to just, you know. Oh, sorry, hiccup. I pretty much just had my lunch, so. So I'm a little bit congested. And anyway, in this case, it was just those two waves. And what I like about those beams is they provide really good, you know, cover for you to take as little damage as possible. And here I'm actually looking for my pistol. I have no idea where it went. It went, you know, flying, and it turns out it was all the way back there. So that happens to me a couple of times when I'm switching out, you know, the plasma weapons to get rid of the infection forms. But something else you can do, which I do a lot, is I melee all the infection forms while backing away from them. So here you're gonna have one of these little well, I'm not sure what I should call them. Little T-splits, maybe, where you're gonna have wave after wave of flood spawning in, and to a lot of people this is gonna be like your first stopping point, especially since you get this creepy soundtrack going, you know. You're like, oh crap, what am I gonna do now? But note that this spawn is not infinite. There is a lot of waves of them. A lot of waves. And it might be really annoying to deal with and real tedious, just to, you know, having them bottle up around this beam over and over again. But it's not infinite, so you can just hold your position here if you want to, and play it safe. And that's what I do here. And this is once again demonstrating the hold position tactic, which in my opinion works really well throughout this mission. So you can see me, I move up.
You can see how the body's been transformed by the genetic restructuring of the flood infection.
Just a little bit.
The small creatures carry spores.
And then you have the next wave. And I mean, I immediately just pull back to the beam. I try to bait them in a little bit since they spawn a little bit ahead of me. But I'm really just persevering and holding my cover. And as you can see, they stop spawning. So I'm being cautious once again. I look up at those screens because I remember them spawning up there previously. But turns out the next wave jumped down from the 2 tubes in front of me, and I just took them out with a couple of frag grenades. Easy stuff. I like using the frags, especially against the combat forms, because of the shorter fuse time. It's easy to time them in the heat of the moment. Plasma grenades works better when you're in the defense, as you're backing up behind a piece of cover and there's a big group coming ahead of time. Because the plasma grenade has a 4-second fuse time. It serves more as a, you know, welcome present, I guess. But yeah, down here you have an overshield. And we slowly make our way. And you can see another wave of flood just spawned in.
This way, please.
And you have a bunch of carrier farms as well.
This installation's research facilities are most impressive. Perhaps we'll have time
I
to
want-
see them later.
I want you to look at the motion tracker right now and notice that behind me there's a whole bunch of carrier farms that just spawned in those tubes. So it's just another little trick. So here I kind of find myself almost getting surrounded. However, the carrier farms in the back obviously decided to move behind cover in order to try to sneak up on me later, so... And I just keep on moving, you know. Because I got a whole bunch of infection forms on my butt. And I don't want them to all explode on me, you know, and as I fight the flood, the collateral damage actually thins them out progressively as I keep on fighting the combat forms. So they're really not that big of an issue to you as long as you keep moving and keep using this piece of cover, this beam here, as your hold point. And when the current wave has been depleted of enemies, you can feel free to move up. You can see me taking cover because the pistol guy was doing a lot of damage to my shields. So, but he ended up getting me pretty low anyway. So, but notice my health here. I'm at full health, and I've been at pretty much full health for most of the missions so far. Well, I'm probably gonna jinx myself, but this is primarily to the whole position tactic that I'm trying to show to you guys. You barely take any damage. It's kind of like you're shooting Flood out of the barrel. It's kind of like Duck Hunt, you know. And maximizing on abusing the AI of the enemies. So now we're getting close to the first elevator that you're gonna be raiding, and we're just popping some carrier forms. I always find it so satisfying when you manage to pop a whole bunch of them at once. And something that I like doing against eviction forms sometimes when there's a lot of them and when I'm feeling a little bit impatient is I just throw a plasma on the ground somewhere close to them, and then I just lead them over to it, blowing them all out. And here you're gonna have a somewhat big group spawn in, so I just throw in frags, some frags.
Your current model, pardon me, a plasma conduit breach in section 5524 has disrupted power flow to a gravitic maintenance.
And I just take them all out with a pistol, so pretty easy stuff. You can even back up and use that beam on the right side as cover if you don't feel like playing this too aggressively, like I did here. But it is really easy. And this is the first elevator. Takes you up to floor number 2. And I'm watching this tube here because I can hear some noise. And lo and behold, got some bubble guys welcoming us. So you might be wondering, lore-wise, why is the Master Chief in this facility? Why is he at the library? And the reason is because I just heard some noise and I was watching the elevator. I didn't know that it would go back down after you used it. Turns out it does. Anyway, the reason why the chief is at the library is because the Index, the little sci-fi gizmo,
Flood activity has caused a failure in a drone control subsystem. I must reset the backup unit. Please continue on. I will rejoin you when I've completed my task.
it's the only item that is able to activate the heal ring to kill the flood. Only problem is, well, I probably shouldn't say anything since it's kind of spoiled, but it doesn't necessarily kill the flood per se. It kills the stuff that the flood eats, which is, well, pretty much any biological creature. So here we have a bit of a holdout section. As you can see, there's quite a lot of enemies here, and notice how I do my spacing here, and the spacing actually just saved my life because there was a massive grenade chain reaction that probably could have killed me pretty easily there. But notice the way I space it, and I keep my distance away from the corner of that little beam. because that's where all the enemies, you know, die, and that's where all the grenades get dropped off. So I stay away from there, so I won't get caught up in a chain reaction. So. And once the doors open, obviously the enemies will stop spawning, and you can proceed on. But yeah, like I said, the index, the activation index, is the only way to activate the Halo, to take out all biological life forms in order to stop the flood from spreading. It was the last resort, set up by the Forerunners in order to get rid of them. But it also was kinda like, you know, because the rings wiped out all the Forerunners as well. So that kinda explains why there aren't any, you know, Forerunners, because the rings took care of all of them. And all of that's left are the things they built, and the monitors. So on this
The Sentinels can use their weapons to manage the flood only for a short time.
section,
Of the essence.
the monitor can be quiet, so can talk. You're gonna have your first encounter with flood with rocket launchers. They can be a menace. A rocket in this game will kill you with one hit from full shields and full health, just from being in close proximity of you when it does connect. So it's extremely dangerous, and it feels extremely cheap when it does kill you. I don't think it actually got me this mission, but here in the third wave is when you're gonna face it. You can see one of them is most likely gonna shoot it into the ground or something like that. They like doing it. There you have it. There he was. And I got lucky because he was kinda close, but he fired a rocket wildly down onto the ground, so we're fine. But just look out for that guy, and don't be too sad if you die to him, because it happens sometimes, you know. And the rocket in this game is really hard to dodge because the velocity is so high. So it just sucks.
Hello.
So if you like the rocket launcher, I do, of course. Feel free to use it, but I don't really feel like having something that I have to, you know, use sparingly or be careful about using or anything like that, when I can use frags instead. And you might notice during the most of the games so far, frags have been sort of rare, especially in the previous mission early on.
Please wait here.
You only get 4 of them in total, but throughout this mission you actually have a pretty wide variety of both human and Covenant weapons, as well as the respective grenade types. So you get a lot of them, so feel free to just use them whenever you want. I'm getting a bit bored here, aren't you? The monitor is taking such a long time getting this door open for us. You could probably, if you feel like, just do a cheeky little grenade jump to get through that center hole in order to skip this, but I'm just I'm just being a patient boy, you know, and I take my time. And here I'm reluctantly refusing to go and check out the other direction. So curious. I don't know what's over there, but... And here I got lucky. I stuck in combat form as he was running towards me. And I managed to take him out before he blew up, luckily. But don't do that. If you're gonna use plasmas, throw them at the ground. And you won't have that happening to you. It's kind of terrifying though, isn't it? Just having a guy with a grenade stuck to him run towards you. Both terrifying and quite entertaining to watch afterwards. So this is the first time you're gonna be going through one of these tunnels, and it's really easy. You just pop all the carrier forms, and as you proceed and go past the corner, just watch your motion tracker, because there might be a couple of them hiding, waiting for you to, you know, show up. But there isn't, so we're good. This is probably one of the more hectic parts of this mission, and I just take things easy. Here, I hang back and I take most of them out with a pistol from range. I don't like rushing this part because there is so many enemies up top. So I just take it easy, and once the coast is clear, I move up. And you can see me noting those carrier forms in the back, so they become my first priority. And then you're gonna have another one of these hold lock sections with Flood jumping down from atop those screens.
Your environment is considerably well when the flood begins to alter rapidly. You are a good planner.
So right now I'm looking for my pistol. I thought it fell down, but I guess not. And it turns out it just was laying on the ground. And you can see me moving up. I make the flood spawn in. I go back to my cover and I take them out with a shotgun from behind this beam. And then rinse repeat. Pretty much. Stay away from the corner if any of the combat forms drop any grenades, to avoid getting caught in any chain reactions like usual. So it's a lot of the same here. Something that you can do if you don't like using the shotgun so much is you can just hide behind the beam, wait for them to gather up, and then you can just throw frag into the middle of them and take them all out real easy. But I'm not patient enough to do that, so I just use the shotgun here. But once again, I want you to note that while this seems like endless flood, like a wave of flood that just doesn't want to stop spawning, note that this isn't actually infinite. It's not. They will stop spawning. You just have to persevere through this. Something else that you can do, which is very risky because there's gonna be enemies up ahead that spawn in past a certain point, is you can rush past this. It's possible, but it's dangerous. So if you new in and inexperienced to this, I wouldn't recommend it. If you wanna play this mission safe, I recommend just holding out. So just watch your motion tracker whenever you move or recover, and trigger the next wave to spawn in. And once you see them, you can feel free to just get back behind the beam. And as you can see, there's no new enemies showing up on the motion tracker. So that was the final wave. And we have a checkpoint. So satisfying, isn't it? Just watching them all blow up like that. So much green blood on the ground. Lovely stuff, you know. Icky and sticky. That's how I feel about the flood anyway. Like, it's just nasty business, and just the act of surviving.
The
You know.
installation was well conceived. It is surely the only way to end the flood threat.
And in this tube, you're gonna have a lot of flows spawning in, and all of them are gonna be holding either a plasma pistol or plasma rifle, so you won't get any shotgun reloads from this. But once again, some people claim that this tube in particular is infinite spawning flood, and it's not. There's a lot of them, but it's not infinite. So you can keep on fighting them, and eventually they will stop spawning. And you can move ahead. But also, it's totally possible if you don't like persevering like I'm doing here, just to move ahead and keep on going with the mission and just ignore all of these guys. It's not mandatory at all. I just like showing you that it's possible to do it this way and maintaining my attitude towards this mission with just holding my ground, you know. Initially, this beam here is my piece of cover here for this situation in particular, and I almost got overwhelmed because I got a little bit overzealous standing on top of the beam fighting them, and I couldn't really catch up with the speed they were spawning. But as you can see, there's no more flood with plasma rifles or pistols spawning anymore, so not infinite. So about here, I remember feeling a little bit concerned about my ammo count. I'm down to below 20 rounds for the shotgun. That's usually a warning sign that you should probably start looking for more. And that, you know, there just wasn't any from that tube, because none of them had shotguns. So. And I switched to frag grenades here because I anticipate a big group coming or rushing around that corner. That didn't happen this time. It will later, so. And here I just decided to just run for the elevator to go up to the first floor. And once again, as we exit the elevator, I'm kind of testing the waters here. I'm checking if... Are the bubble guys gonna come down the tube? No? Okay. We are gonna have a whole
Currently on the installation is responsible for releasing the flood. They seem most persistent in their attempts to access restricted areas.
we're gonna have a whole bunch of sentinels spawning in for us, and while they're not in particularly useful at killing anything, they do provide a great distraction for you to be able to play a little bit more butsing and, you know, gutsy and gutsy, and take a little bit more risk as you make your way to the to yet another tunnel. I'm just scavenging a little bit, looking for more shotgun ammo, and there's a rocket launcher here behind this corner. I'm not sure if that actually spawns every time in the same location, or if it's one of the flood that has it. So if you really like using the rocket launcher against the flood, just spend a little bit of time looking, and you should be able to find it. You can see how nice and satisfying it is just using one of the plasmas to clear out all the infection forms. It's something that you will see me doing occasionally to speed things up a bit. Also, it's not always that I feel like swapping out for one of the plasma weapons, because it's kind of hard to find the weapons on the ground because it's so dark. And I believe this is gonna be one of my problem spots right here. I think I died twice in this encounter, or the next one coming up. So I decided to hold my position here. I take up a position on the left side here for some reason. I just kind of get stuck over here, because the flood keep on spawning in, and turns out they spawn behind me here. And it's a little bit awkward because I don't really remember how exactly I die here, but I think I end up throwing a grenade on the ground, and then I have a big chain reaction. Take my. Do you see that there's a frag over there, just laying on the ground? There's just grenades everywhere right now. So I do realize how risky this is. So I'm keeping my distance. Then I look on my motion tracker. I watch behind me. I see the flood coming down, and then I shoot the carrier form, and that chain reaction just kind of takes me out. So it's just one of the cheap and really fast ways you can get taken out like that. It's probably one of the more common ways you will die on this mission if you use my strategy. It's just from a dumb grenade chain reaction. So on the second attempt, I hold the position in the center instead. And there's a few sentinels spawning in, and they're nice, keeping the attention of the flood away from me mostly, letting me keep this more aggressive position easier, or allowing me to keep this more aggressive position easier. And I just keep on moving. around the entrance or the exit of this tunnel. And I watch my motion tracker continuously to gain information on where the enemy is coming from next, you know. They mainly spawn from the tubes, so. And then they will funnel up around the corner, both of the corners of the beams on either side, to come and attack you. And here I thought I was dead again because the grenade blew up, and I thought I was screwed. So, but finally they stopped spawning, and I started to I scavenged a little bit for ammo here, but I realized I have over 50 shots for shotgun, so I'm like, screw it. Let's just keep on going. And I expect enemies to drop down from that too, but they don't, so I'm like, okay. And like I keep on moving towards the door, thinking it's gonna be another shield, you know, shield holding section, but it's not. The enemy spawn behind me. I get overwhelmed completely here. My shields go down in just a second, and I almost get my bearings here, but one of the combat forms actually catch up to me and gets one last melee down. And I'm like, dang, that was. I was not prepared for that at all. I'm like nodding, shaking my head, being disapproval. I'm getting a little bit tired of doing this now, as you can see. Like, it was bad enough to do that twice, but I have to do it the third time now. Like, ugh. And I'm like, I'm thinking about how the commentary is gonna go during the rewatch, and I'm thinking about how much of a disaster this mission run is becoming. All those paranoia thoughts, you know, you get when you're making video like I am, you know. It's a lot. Digging into your mental state. But I I pretty much do this part the same way. I just hold this center. And I let the flood funnel around those corners once more. You can see me playing a little bit more aggressively and a little bit more recklessly because I'm getting impatient because I've done this twice already, you know. And I'm like, come on, just get this over with already. I just wanna finish this mission and go to bed. Guess it was getting kinda late at this point. And I watched I watched OBS and I realized it's getting close to 50 minutes of total playtime. And I'm like, was it really only gonna be 45 minutes, this mission? So that also adds to the paranoia a little bit. But I'm like, finally, they stop spawning, so I move ahead, and this time I know what's coming, you know? So I move up, I see them spawn, so I move back. I noticed those carrier forms from the screen spawning in, so I move back all the way. And I use this piece of cover here, this wall, as a way of funneling them. And now I'm like, damn, that was kinda easy, you know? Like, I should do this way next time. Well, if there's ever gonna be a next time playing through this mission, that is. This mission can be kinda, it is really repetitive. But then I'm like, right, there's more waves spawning in, and there's a carrier form behind me taking down my shields, and I'm like, well, it was nice knowing you all. So But obviously I managed to regain my bearings here. And I move up again. I kind of test the waters a little bit again, seeing if any of the combat forms are gonna drop down. They do, eventually. But now I have a good position behind this piece of cover here, using this beam. That's my whole point. And as the door open, I'm like, screw this, I don't want to do this anymore. And I run inside, and boom, rocket flood. And I end up here again, and I'm like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? And I'm actually considering just quitting here, because I just don't want to do this for the 4th time. So I'm fed up, I'm pissed, and I'm actually, you know, not moving up because I'm raging right now because of that happening and me not getting a checkpoint. I thought that was bullshit. I really did. So I'm considering just quitting here, but I'm not. But I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do this. So I actually skipped this this 4th run, and right now I'm just fed up. I'm fed up and I'm pissed. I'm really annoyed. And I just want this to end. So I throw in a couple of frags. I pre-nade the tubes. And I'm playing really aggressively here. This is not something I usually do in this mission. And I take everything out as fast as I can. I actually almost get myself blown up by sticking a combat form next to me. I don't think he even had any arms left. I thought I think I actually shot them off. So, and I switched out my shotgun for the plasma pistol, and I realized my mistake because I don't know if there's gonna be any waves spawning in after this. So I quickly switch back, and I just, you know. And here I know the rocket launcher pod is here. And I look for him with a pistol. And there he is! And he gets me with that. That was so close. But we managed to survive the wild rocket. That was incredibly close. That soared right by me. I could easily have died there again. To that damn rocket flood. I hate rocket flood in this game. They're kind of like the Jackal snipers in Halo 2, although not nearly as there are not nearly as many of them in this mission as the Jackal snipers are. You know. Anyway, we're playing Halo 1 now, so let's talk about that instead. So the Beacon of Hope, and it looks like the monitor has moved up without you here. And there is a really difficult section coming up. I don't think it's on the 2nd floor yet. But I call it the torture chamber. It's another one of those holding sections where you wait for the door to open. And you get trapped in this tiny room, and there's 2 tubes that constantly spawns in combat forms, and I'm gonna show you a really good way of handling that coming up. So I'm a little bit concerned right here because I remember that part being really difficult and really frustrating, but it's not here yet. It's on the next floor, obviously. Excuse me. I do find it kind of funny though how those flood up on the boxes kind of act as sentries, shooting at me from a distance. So I just take them out with the pistol, easy peasy.
installation was specifically built to study and contain the flood.
Here's a health
Their
pack if you need it.
survival as a race was dependent upon it. I am grateful to see that some of them survived to reproduce.
And once again, I'm testing the waters here. I don't know where the enemies are gonna spawn, and it turns out they jump up from that little hole. Guess they were waiting for me. And then some more jump down from the tubes, and I just take up a position and I around the beam and I kill them all with a frag. Turns out there's no power-ups for me down there, so I know for a fact that there is at least one more overshield in this mission. I just don't know where it is exactly. So the reason why I moved back this far is I thought there was gonna be enemies spawning in behind me at the same time. So I prepared to take up a more defensive position, but it turns out they didn't. And it's just another one of these hold positions. And another creepy soundtrack starts. So like always, I just hold this beam, I move up, I watch the motion tracker, I let them spawn, and I see them spawning behind me now, so that's when I, you know, decide to take up a position behind the beam. So it's just perseverance, really, when it comes to these hold-up parts. It's not infinite. It's not. There's a lot of waves of them, a lot of time, but it's not infinite. And here I'm like, well, there goes all those nice frags I could have used from that stupid one combat form that I decided to grenade for some reason. And I move out, and it turns out it was just a couple of waves this time, so it wasn't that tedious. And here, actually not sure.
Oh, hello.
Is this the scary section coming up? I think so. I'm like, yeah, this is the torture chamber, and I go in here, and I chill for a moment. But then I hear the monitor laughing in the room next to me. So I'm like, am I in the right spot right now? And it turns out I'm not. And I want to welcome you guys to the torture chamber, and this is how I deal with it.
I will deactivate the security.
I go in here, and I wait. I don't do anything. And you can hear the music starting, you can see the enemy spawning in here, and I just wait. Because otherwise, this would be the hardest section of this mission by far. And usually this section kicks my ass really bad. But yeah, anyways, how have you guys' day been so far? It's actually kind of sunny today, a little bit cloudy, I guess. So we're just chilling. Hello, monitor. I feel like the monitor could totally be one of those guys where you can just take a cup of tea and some cake and just have a talk about philosophy or something, you know? Just talk about random stuff. Because why not, you know? Although I think the monitor might have a hard time drinking tea because he doesn't really have a mouth, but maybe he can imagine it, you know? Having some imaginary tea. You can hear, it's just so funny, because you're just chilling out here, the music is going full-blown action mode, and you're just listening to the monitor babbling away. And once the door opens, then you can move out of the cover of this little hiding spot and plant a grenade or two, and there's actually only gonna be a few, because you hiding is creating a bottle cap of how many enemies can be in the area at once. So there's only gonna be the first few guys that do spawn in, you know,
Please stay close.
in the room with you.
Time is short.
So, and this is the section where I was scared about. We're getting close to the third elevator here, and this is the big group of flood combat forms I was talking about rushing the corner to get you. So I just like having a frag grenade ready for them to take them all out. And then we can just rush over to the third elevator. And we go up to the fourth and final floor. So we're almost done with this mission. The fourth floor is also kinda short, so almost at the finish line. Of this mission that everyone thinks is so difficult for some reason. Well, I did die here a few times, admittedly, but most of those deaths weren't from, you know, this game being unreasonably hard. It was mainly me doing some mistakes, you know, being too close to grenade chain reactions, not being aware of where the rocket flood was going to be, you know, things like that. So in reality, I think this mission really is fine, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, per se. It's just a couple of things that just can get you. And using the wrong tactics and getting overwhelmed. Well, mainly the rocket flood, grenade chain reactions, getting overwhelmed by playing too aggressively, and not knowing what's coming ahead of time is the things that will kill you in this mission. But as long as you're just being chill and playing methodically, taking them out one by one, you know, holding your ground, this mission doesn't get that bad, I think. It's just a lot of the same things over and over again. You can see here once more for the fourth time in this mission we have yet another holdout section with enemies dropping down from atop those screens, and I'm dealing it with it the exact same way. It's not infinite, I know that ahead of time, so I'm willing to just hold my position, let them spawn in, and I take them out from behind cover until they're all out. You don't have to be worried, you know, throughout this mission in its entirety. You don't have to be worried about rocket flood being spawned in with the regular waves. That doesn't happen. In my experience, and I think this is actually a part of how the game was programmed, is the rocket flood is a specific type of enemy that is programmed to show up at certain parts, at certain sections, you know. So they're not random spawns, like, it's not the same thing as if you get a combat form with a plasma rifle, for example, as if you would get a combat form with a rocket launcher. There's gonna be certain flood that gets rocket launchers that are hand-picked and placed there manually by Bungie as specific spawns. So if you note the locations where I encountered rocket flood here and where I found the rocket launchers on the ground, that's usually where you're gonna have to fight them as well. So just be careful and anticipate that ahead of time from watching this video, and we should be able to deal with it just fine. Another note about the Flood is they are completely immune against both sniper rifle bullets. Well, there is no sniper rifles in this game, obviously, but they're completely immune against the sniper rifle and melee attacks. You cannot kill them with melee attacks in this game. That would permanently get changed in upcoming titles, but in the code, I believe that the melee attacks has a 0% damage multiplier, so they just do nothing to the Flood. So we're just mopping out the last of them here. Another health pack there, and also in the previous room there was one, if you need it. And here I am noticing I have one frag, so I'm ready to use it here in case a big group spawns in on me. It turns out it's just carrier forms here. So we have some firework boom party going on once more. And I'm a little bit sad because I couldn't find a plasma weapon on the ground, so I throw a plasma grenade to try to take them all out, but I accidentally stuck one of the infection forms and it almost blew me up. Note how in being proximity of the plasma grenades took out my shield instantly but didn't do any health damage, and that's because the plasma grenade actually has
are already hard at work repairing your vessel.
it has an
Belies the Flood's intelligence.
Spark can be quiet. It actually has an EMP effect against all shielded enemies, so if it blows up next to elites and jackals, for example, and also you, it will immediately take out your energy shields and leaving your health vulnerable. That's why people think that the plasma grenades are so strong in this game, but they really aren't. They do about the same, you know, raw damage as the frag grenades does. It just has a longer fuse time. The reason why it feels so strong is because of the EMP effect, and that got removed from Halo 2. Which I thought was a terrible decision because the plasma grenade in that game feels a lot less satisfying, and it does in this game. So here is the final part, and one of the more difficult fights of the mission. So Spark is gonna open up this door. You're gonna have the music starting and immediately have the Flood jumping in, trying to bomb rush you. You can see there's a lot of them here. So I just move back like I usually do, and I use this beam right here as cover to take out the initial waves. And you can note that I don't have any grenades here, which makes me a little bit nervous because there's a lot of enemies here. I also have a big chain reaction going up, so I got lucky once more. That I didn't die from that. And I'm just looking for more grenades pretty much. I have enough shotgun ammo to finish the mission from this point. I'm just picking up any straggles that I can see, and as you move into the next room, as you move past the doorway, you're gonna have more waves spawning in. So what I like doing is I like throwing a grenade by, you know, where the most heavy enemy concentration is gonna be. I throw a grenade, and then I move up on the left side and I take up a position behind the beam over there. And I let them funnel up and I take them out from there, so until they all stop spawning. And that's usually or how you can do this part without hanging back like I'm doing here. But I wanted to play it safe, and not die again, because I noticed that the video was getting so long already. So I just kind of wanted this to finish. But you can see I move up, and I look at the motion tracker here, and I notice more combat forms are spawning in fact. So I just try to hold the doorway here, and I know if I get overwhelmed, I just go back around this beam, and I take them out from there. But I got a pretty good grenade placement, and I was able to take out a lot of them, so it wasn't necessary here with that wave anyway. So moving a little bit further yet again, and I tried to bait them out a little bit, and now I actually use these beams over here as my next piece of cover. And I take out all of them. So once again, you can see how little fire you actually take when you manage to get a good defensive position like this. It's so easy, and it really doesn't take that much skill to perform it. You just need to know your limits and adjust accordingly to the amount of damage you can take. And here I'm like, I don't really want to do this again, so I actually decided to just rush past these guys and go up to the index, and that's gonna be the end of the mission.
The energy barrier surrounding the index will deactivate when we reach the ground floor. You may now retrieve the index. Protocol requires that I take possession of the index for transport. Your organic form renders you vulnerable to infection. The index must not fall into the hands of the Flood before we reach the control room and activate the installation. The Flood is spreading. We must hurry.
And there you have it. So that's gonna be in the end of the 7th mission of the Halo Combat Evolved campaign, the library. So something I definitely remember from my childhood playing through this mission is I was struck by how desolate this entire mission feels. It's just an empty place, you know. It feels so ancient and alien, and it's like an indoor desert almost. I don't know how else to really describe it. The closest feeling I can relate to from another game is probably the Ravenholm section. You know, when you enter the tunnel and you go into the courtyard, the little playground into Ravenholm in Half-Life 2. And you just have this really creepy soundtrack starting, and you can hear the wind blowing, and there is evidence of just violence and blood everywhere happening, and the entire town is just, you know, basically just a ghost town filled with zombies. And from that point on, the game really just really dramatically changes from being just, you know, a sci-fi shooter, you playing against the Combine soldiers and fighting them with these weird sci-fi weapons and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, you're in a horror game surrounded by screaming zombies. Then you find the father, this crazy priest character with a shotgun that screams strange Bible quotes at you from the top of the buildings as you make your way forward. It's just a really interesting experience, and I find that the library is kind of the same, because you have, instead of the father that you have from Half-Life 2, you have the monitor here floating around, and he's not being the most encouraging companion here. He's not like, you know, the traditional like Zelda sidekick. He's just a guy that makes quirky remarks at your, you know, primitive combat state, how bad your armor and your weapons are, and all that stuff, and how terrible the flood is, and how excited apparently he is about, studying them, and how happy he is that the Forerunners actually didn't kill all of the flood. They saved some samples, which is why we are fighting against the flood in the first place here. So, so the Monitor is kind of an interesting character. He's not entirely considered to be like a friend or anything. He's just a person that is dedicated towards a task, and when he's determined to do so, it's hard for him sometimes to determine between personal interest, because he's such a sentient AI. He's basically human, brain scan floating around in this bulby looking robot body. And it's kind of hard for the Monitor sometimes to distinguish between his personal feelings and his duties towards the ring in maintaining it. So I think he's a pretty interesting character, and the Master Chief just tries to survive, and he gets pulled into this spiral with the Monitor, and kind of gets turned into some kind of subject in order to do the Monitor's bidding throughout the library. So for someone that knows a lot about the lore like I do, I know the way the Monitor thinks and the way he rationalizes his decisions and all that stuff. And I know that he is not an entirely good guy per se. And I'm like noticing that the chief is getting played by him, into firing the Halo rings and killing all of the humans and all the Covenant and all the other organic life forms that there is. And the Monitor is not completely clear about this for some reason. It's gonna get revealed in the next mission why, and I elaborate about that a little bit more into Betrayals later on. But you're gonna learn pretty quick about the true nature of this ring and why it's both a beautiful structure, it's a beautiful creation in an architectural retrospect. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, but it's so dangerous and so destructive. It's kind of like how a nuclear bomb can be a great achievement in terms of just, pure scientific advancement. But the true purpose of the nuclear bombs is terrifying and horrible and non-humanitarian, obviously, because you can destroy an entire city with a nuclear bomb. Kind of the same way as you can destroy an entire galaxy of life with the Halo array. Remember, this is the ring that you're on now is actually not the only one. There is 7 of them in total, and the ring that you're on now is has number 4. Installations here for there is. So actively they can, all of them collaboratively take out all life in the entire galaxy. So it's pretty nasty stuff. Right. Um, I don't know if I have any other notes about this mission though. It's I understand that from a fresh perspective, this feels like filler a little bit. The library in general feels a little bit like filler, but I don't think so because um like obviously you being played by the monitor here to do his dirty work as you guys are making your way over to the index, and there's actually a requirement for a human hand to retrieve the index. Like you have to pull it out with your hand. Like the monitor can't do it, the covenant can't do it, the flood most certainly can't do it. You have to have a human, a non-afflicted human that hasn't been, turned by the flood to actually pull the index out. So the monitor needs the chief to do this, but uh, I think the monitor is only really using chief for because he is useful, you know. And whether the monitor has any other motivations, if he's curious about something else, about humanity in general, why he calls Chief Reclaimer all the time, like he's the one to take over the work after the Forerunners. We don't really know what he means by that yet, so remember the Forerunners all died 100,000 years prior to the current event of the game, the current events of the game. So it's been a long time, and like I said earlier, the monitor is hella old. He's well, not as old as your mother. Well, hilarity aside, um, yeah, I enjoyed this mission. Um, I did, believe it or not, and I hope that some of the strategies and tactics that I showed you guys here are gonna help you enjoying it more as well. Something that I used more than anything, especially in this mission, is the motion tracker of a car just drove by that was really loud. It was, I don't know if you guys could hear that. Anyway, the motion tracker ended up being the most useful piece of equipment in this mission, even more so than, the shotgun or the frag grenades or whatever. Because in so many areas, so many rooms, the flood are gonna be spawning behind you, especially with those pesky carrier forms. So just keep a lookout of and make a note of where the floods with rocket launcher spawned in, and be careful when you encounter flood where they're gonna be um, far ahead of you, like in big open areas, because that's where usually the flood with rocket launchers are gonna spawn, with a few exceptions, of course. If you remember my death during the third attempt of that annoying section by the tunnel exit. But other than that, I didn't really have that many problems here. I stayed at fairly high health during most of this run. I died, and I mostly just died to unavoidable stuff and to me either not knowing what was coming ahead of time or just using stupid tactics like rushing ahead and getting overwhelmed. So just be patient with this mission and take it easy and you'll be fine. Like I probably have said like a billion times already in this video. But yeah, I don't think I have much else to say though. We're getting close to an hour and a half of this recording here. So in the next mission we're gonna go through 2 betrayals. And this is probably the hardest mission of the campaign in my opinion. and also the longest. I am estimating this mission to be around 2 hours, so it's gonna be a really long mission coming up. A really long one with a lot of difficult encounters. And we're gonna see some new dynamics happening, some new combinations of enemies, and also bear witness to how the Covenant are gonna be reacting to the flood, because the Covenant is more terrified of the flood than anyone is, obviously. So that's for next, but for now, this here is gonna be the end of the video. I don't think I have anything else to tell you guys. All I can say is good luck during your run of the library. Remember to bring your reading glasses, of course, and have fun. And as always, thanks for watching.